Thank you everyone for joining me for today's data platform WIT Mental Health and Wellness Day. I'm going to be talking about what happens to their home lab, a disaster response checklist. This session is dedicated to the memory of my friend and fellow home labber, Andy Jones. My name is Chrissy LeMaire. I'm a Microsoft MVP and GitHub star. And I'm on Twitter. So if you have any questions about this, about how to contribute to a GitHub repo, DBA tools, PowerShell, severe weather, I tweet about all of that. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm also on GitHub, and my username there is Potato Quality. And yes, there's a story behind it. I never thought I'd have to say it again and again at sessions. Oh, it's okay. I'll just pick Potato Quality, whatever. So today I'm going to be talking about a crowdsourced guide that I created to help techs help their non-tech spouses, partners, parents, and kids when we die. And the reason that I proposed it for the Mental Health and Wellness Day is because this actually brought me and my wife a lot of relief. I did have an anxiety about, oh my God, is she going to remember, how to log in to RDP? Is she going to remember how to get into my email and bank accounts and things like that? And once I finally put that on paper, it made me feel a lot better, and it made her feel a lot better as well. And this is primarily for text, but if you divvy up, I do get into like generic things like finances. And if you divvy up your duties within the household, then that's something that both you and the other person can collaborate on for this document. So the document answers questions like what happens to your home lab? And this was my home lab back in 2016. I find it incredibly useful. I spin up all of these servers. I develop all of my PowerShell modules there. And so, I have DBA tools that I created, and I want to make sure that it works against SQL Server 2000 all the way through what's currently there. And I do this with this home lab, super useful to me, not at all useful to my wife. And so what happens to this network? What happens to all of these computers in the event that I die? So in today's agenda, I'm going to give an overview of this project that I call Fruipyland. Then I'm going to get into a deep dive, going line by line, all of the things that are included within this disaster response document. And we're also going to explore the GitHub repository where this document is stored. And then I'll also walk through using purely the web, creating an issue or a pull request in the event that you would like to contribute. So this project it's called Fruipyland, and the reason is because I wanted to introduce some levity into such a serious topic. I was actually looking around this repository, and I realized that I think I said died only one time. You can see here in the About section that I even had a hard time talking about death here. And so I did kind of want to, bring it up just a little, because what are you going to name this repository? The death disaster response repository. So I went with Fruipyland, and Fruipyland is from one of my favorite TV shows called Rick and Morty. He created this place for his daughter where you can breathe underwater. If you fall off from a mountain, then you'll just bounce on the grass. And I thought that was a pretty nice place for an afterlife. So I actually created this repository after I got the news that that my friend Andy had died, and it took a while to set in, because his name is Andy Jones. It's kind of generic. So they were like, "Hey, Andy passed," and I was like, "Wait, what? Our Andy? Like the Andrew Jones worked with us at NSHQ?" It was really, really hard to accept. Andy and I had actually met back in 2012 when I moved to Belgium, and we were working together at NATO Special Ops headquarters. And I was so excited because he had a huge home lab, and he was the VMware guy. So he would do all of his VMware, and I had my home lab that I would do all of my SQL stuff on. And so we really got close after that. And I also was close with his wife, Carrie. So whenever I heard that, I thought, oh my God, poor Carrie. And then I worried for her, because what if Andy set up his DHCP server on his lab to his Wi-Fi, and then what if that lab goes down and she like can't get an IP address? And after I talked to her, I've kept in touch over the months that he's passed, and she told me that like she runs past his office because it causes so much anxiety, and that really broke my heart. I imagined the same thing happening with my own wife, and I wanted to kind of like reduce that anxiety as much as possible. So I created a checklist for myself, and then I was like, heck, why don't I share this with everybody? You know, they'll be able to give me more ideas that maybe I hadn't thought about. And then also this repository will allow other people to make the same preparations as well. And in the end, throughout that repository, the ultimate goal, everything is now in a Word document that you can download. And you can see here on the left, I go through all the tech parts, and then the inputs and the outputs, which is the financial things. And what's nice about this Word document is that you can update it along the way. So I do like that. And something that I don't do in this document is I don't actually store my passwords. I have a little blank line where I write it in. And that's so that, for things like MasterPass, like password managers, I wanted to upload this to the cloud to a shared location in the event that, let's say, there's a fire. And the fireproof bag that we've printed this out and put it in, gets burned up, and then I get burned up. And so I know, super morbid, sorry, but I hate talking about death, but I really wanted to for this presentation, because I do think that this is such an important topic. And again, it just brought me so much relief. So you have this Word document that you can print out and put into a safe. I've heard that the bags that we stored ours in aren't as fireproof as I'd hoped. So ultimately, if you have, a mega safe that you can store this in, that would be best. So the first thing that I went through as I was going through this checklist is, everything's tied to our emails. And my wife, Lou, she knows my primary email address, but what about aliases? Things like LeMaire@dbatools.io. I went through and I listed like how to log in to my email address or my inbox, but I also said like you may be expecting some email addresses from these other aliases as well. And then domains. This is something that I never thought about whenever I purchased my domains. Where do they go if, once I die? So within this, I listed the registrar that all of my domains are registered to, and then all of the beneficiaries. Like I've had netnerds.net since the 90s, and a lot of times I work with my best friend Brandon, and we both blog there. So netnerds.net is going to go to him, and also everybody who is inheriting one of my domains, they're going to know what to do with this registrar information. So my wife doesn't necessarily have to know what to do, but it's good to know where the domains are registered. Also, for the password managers, I realized how lucky I am that we actually both use password managers. This was something, if you look at Have I Been Pwned, we get notifications all the time that our credentials have been stolen, and you need to rotate them. And then there's other password managers that will say, hey, you have a bunch of reused credentials. Let's go ahead and change that. And so I did that for both myself and my wife. And what's really great is that if I were to die before her, she actually already knows how to use a password manager. So I just have to give her the information to log in. And the same is true for multi-factor authentication. She knows exactly how to use Authy, how to use Microsoft Authenticator, because we start now. If she has any questions, she can ask me now. So she's already set knowing how to use MFA. Just a good security practice all around. So what I do in the list is that I list which apps, Authy, Microsoft Authenticator, which apps go with which website. And then also, I didn't realize until later, SMS is another form of MFA. A lot of people recommend against it because, especially in the United States, you can get your SIM hijacked. But in general, sometimes it has to happen, especially if, like me, I live overseas, but I have a bunch of American things and they won't accept my German phone number. And so I did remember, if it ends in 5555, then that's the Google Voice. So you can go ahead and check that. Next are the subscriptions, and this is not only good for the Fruipyland project, but also just to know like your monthly budget. I went through and I thought about all of the subscriptions that we have, and I just gave a little bit of detail for each of them. Like with YouTube, just keep that one because she watches it on our Roku or Apple TV, and that gives her no commercials. So if she cancels my YouTube, then she's going to start getting commercials. And then like with Twitch and Discord, like Twitch is $9 a month and Discord is $5. She's never going to use that. Go ahead and close out those accounts. We also went through, Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, Spotify. The Spotify is a family thing, so might as well keep that. But my Apple subscriptions, I have things like I subscribe to the Wondery podcast. That's like $36 a year. And so those have to be canceled. But Apple subscriptions kind of do it a different way where you have to follow it on your phone. So I listed out the instructions there. Then also VPN, we get charged $99 a year. If that's something that she finds herself not using anymore, then that's something good to know about so that she can cancel it. Also wireless network. So in that homelab picture that I showed you, that was just an Airport Extreme. That's pretty straightforward, but now I have a super complicated network setup with Ubiquiti Unify. It's because now we live in a larger place and I have to shoot out all of the Wi-Fi rays everywhere. So we have a really complicated setup. I let her know who to call in order to just simplify and collapse the entire network, and then also who gets all of the Unify equipment. And I talk about the home labs, and I just really emphasized how important it is not to give away anything without formatting first. Like maybe it'll feel overwhelming and she'll have some anxiety and just be like, I just want to throw away this older laptop that who knows what she's using. So I'll let her know that she has to work with one of my friends to format that drive. And even with Apple products, if she wants to give away my Mac Mini, it has to be disconnected from my Apple iCloud account. And so I left the instructions on how to do that. And again, just really emphasized, even if you have an encrypted drive, like with my Apple encryption, it's just encrypting my home drive. But I store stuff in other directories, and that could be problematic. I also let her know, here's who gets the advanced networking. Here's who gets each of the little computers. And I think that's all that I have now. I actually have a pretty simple home lab compared to a lot of people. And then I also let her know who can help with what, who can help divvy it up. I also listed the social media accounts. So how to get in, especially to my Twitter account. There are some that I don't want to exist after I die. I actually really want to close my Facebook account already, just export and close. But I have Real Cajun Recipes is one of my businesses, and it has 165,000 followers. And so that's important for me to stay on Facebook. And I also have a friend who died that I like writing on her wall every now and then. So I can't yet close that, but once I'm gone, just go ahead, export all the data so that you keep my pictures and then close the account. And I also highlight which ones she may want to keep. Like, with Instagram, we have all of our travel photos there. So that's something that she may not want to close and export at all. Next are the cloud subscriptions. When I realized, oh my God, like going through this list, there were so many things. If you have a personal cloud account, like, for me, I'm an MVP, I get an Azure account from Microsoft, and I put up a managed instance there. I have Bastion hosts, I have VMs. That is super expensive, up to $12,000 a year. So it's important that once, all the initial things happen, that she should reach out to someone. I was really hoping that there would be like a billing at azure.com so that she'd be able to close the account, but I couldn't find it. All I found was a link, and we all know that the links often change. So who knows, if that's going to be accurate by the time that I die. And then also, I thought about Azure, I thought about AWS, but I had forgotten about AppVeyor, which is the CI/CD project company that we use for the DBA Tools test. This is $2,500 per year. And so I gave her information on like who to pass that account on to. This is something that actually was contributed by somebody in the community. I totally forgot about the Synology. So he had mentioned things like the local storage, like a NAS, also cloud storage, which could also go in the subscriptions area as well. But sometimes you might want to give additional information for the Google Drive. And then also photo backups. We all love our photos. That's one of the most important things. And so I let her know where all of our photos are stored, and also emphasize, just today, she was watching me. I was like, hey, come watch me practice. Like, let me make sure that I'm doing this well. And I hadn't told her yet. But if you have an Apple iPhone and you delete your photos from iPhone, it's also going to delete it in the cloud. So I emphasized that the Apple iCloud is not a backup. It's I don't know, it's a holder where you just offload stuff. But make sure that she downloads all of those. Somehow I should probably write a tutorial for that, and not actually delete them from my phone. Website. So you not only have domains, right, but you also host your websites as well. I used to host with Bluehost, but I have that gigantic, the Real Cajun Recipes site. It's large. It's like, it has a lot of content types, and it bogged down my Bluehost. And so I moved to a VPS, or virtual private server. So I entered the information for that for her, for who should take over my VPS. But I also put in there, and this isn't necessarily for her, but it's for the person who inherits the VPS. It doesn't go straight to Cloudflare. So if you, SSH to realcajunrecipes.com, it's not going to respond because it all goes through a proxy first. So that's something that's important. Here's how you log in with the MFA, and then here's how you do all of that stuff. Just making the other person aware of how to take over the website appropriately. Restarting network services was also suggested by the community. What to do when the internet goes out. We know in the house that generally you unplug it for like 10 seconds so that all the electricity leaves, and then boot it back up. And then this is for other people, the phone number for the ISP. We tried calling our ISP. I have no idea how I'm going to cancel my internet, because setting it up was next to impossible, even though I got somebody who spoke German. But for you can list the phone number for your ISP, so that they know who to call in the event that there's an extended outage. Home automation was also suggested by the community. And I was like, oh yeah, we have Hue lights. I love my Hue lights, and so does my wife. And we're constantly adding. That's actually what I asked for my birthday this year, were some new Hue lights. So I'll let her know how to set it up. I also listed out all of our IoT devices. And the reason is because, as I had mentioned earlier, I expect that she will collapse the network. and just use whatever it is that the ISP gives her, right? And a lot of times it'll be like Comcast 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but all of our IoT devices are hooked up to the Wi-Fi named Potato Pie. And so if she has Comcast 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, none of them are going to be online. So I suggested that she work with one of our friends to get that name, because you can always like modify the name within the modem, but it's really hard for a non-tech person to do. Next up, so that's the tech stuff, right? This is things that apply to everyone, the inputs and outputs. So where money exists or lands, I listed out all of our bank accounts. I'm the person who does the finances in the family. And our, each of our bank accounts serve a different purpose. This one is good because, it offers insurance and it just takes from that. This one is good because it can pay international bills. So I have some tips and tricks for our bank accounts for her to be aware of all of them. And I also list some virtual currency. Not a lot, because I lost it all, because it's ridiculous. No, it's not. I don't know. And also the insurance. So what she should be, what she should expect from who and how much. So I'll list that there. And then also all of our investment accounts. And I was so happy to have this list, because the way that I was doing it before was every now and then we would log into RDP. I'd be like, okay, let's practice. This is how you log into my workstation. And then I'd do it like 6 months later and she's like, I forgot, is it the red button? And then what if it's no longer the red button, right? And then with the investments, I had hooked everything into our bank account so that she could just log in and scroll. But then those get disconnected over time and it just felt very unstable. But now that we have it printed out on a piece of paper and in a fire bag, then she will have access to all of that information without practicing. So outputs, this is the section with bills and things you got to pay. Insurance, it's really important. You have to, a lot of us have auto pay, taking out insurance each month. That's car insurance, that's house insurance, umbrella insurance, etc. So I listed out all of those. Also, any credit cards or loans, and the purpose of the credit card, the purpose of the loan, the expectation of how much is being paid out each month. I listed the details about our cell phone and internet because they take out each month and how much. And then also auto pay details for just like generic things that happen throughout the month. Then miscellaneous. Since I do all the finances, I think that it was best to put down the name of a financial advisor, also our accountant. And, over the course of many years, we've actually, we kind of divide up our taxes. And I always felt so bad. I was like, oh, here's, we have to do this because we have itemized deductions and it's such a pain. I'm so sorry to ask this of you. But now I feel a lot better because she knows how to work with the accountant. She knows what to expect, like what the bills look like and everything like that. This was something that was also suggested by the community. That's answers to common security questions. So, your mother's maiden name, the name of your first pet. I know that we all hate security questions because they can be hacked, or if somebody just knows anything about you. But sometimes they are required. Even if you lie, and your birthday is always like January 1st, 1990, then that's something that should be noted as well. And then also physical security and pins. So if you have, some sort of storage that has a combo, all of your pins for your cards and things like that. So do y'all have any questions before we move forward to the demo? I saw that Gilda might have had a question.
Gilda, you can ask. I've unmuted you.
Hi, Chrissy. Sorry.
Hello.
This is eye-opening to me. I had no idea. This is amazing. I mean, I'm kind of like you. I have to feel anxiety. I have to stop the anxiety because you know, I'm a single mom, so my daughter will be pretty much on her own. So I have to be very, very careful about everything, you know. So this, I would have never even thought about a digital will kind of thing. But
Yes.
this is amazing. Thank you so much. I'm gonna start working on it as soon as possible, you know. I mean,
Excellent.
I have a life insurance. She's gonna be okay. I'm
Yeah.
better off dead than alive. But I just want to make sure that everything else she's kind of knowledgeable, because she doesn't know the stuff that we do. So thank you so much for what you're doing. I appreciate it. And yes, for my birthday, I got 4 Q lights because I'm all
Hey, you too, huh?
I'm
I
like
I love
addicted to that thing.
I love them. We use them every day. Actually, so I did indulge for my birthday. It was only 15 euros, but it was so unnecessary because we have our phones, but I just wanted the little remote so I could press a button and all the lights go off at night, because I would log into my phone and then I'd turn everything off. So yeah, I totally love the hue lights.
Whenever like soccer teams are playing, I put in the lights of the flags. I kind of like,
I love that. That's
it's like,
super
it's
cool.
perfect, you know. Thank you
Yeah,
so
it's
much.
really nice to like come here in the morning and then just like turn everything on, and it kind of starts my day. And sometimes at night when I'm all like coding or whatever, then I'll put in my little blue and pink lights that are just super cool.
How it changes your mood. It helps you get into the mood.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it.
We totally do. Yeah, I was really excited because it is a big investment, and I showed Lou. I was like, hey, come in here. And I was like, you want to read a book? And I turned it off. And she's usually like totally not impressed by technology. And she was like, this is awesome. Can we put it everywhere? And I was like, well, we can't put it everywhere because it's expensive, but we could put it in a lot of places. So yeah, we have that all hooked up now. She's actually better at the Hue app than I am. So but I'm really glad that you found this useful, and that, you know, it'll ultimately help your daughter. Yeah, it really helps to set those expectations, and it's just brought me so much relief, knowing that there's like a detailed guide, that she really won't have to worry. And, you know, like, I know that there's going to be a horrifying amount of grief and that she wouldn't even really be able to function, but at least if she knows who to call. And something else that I could actually do is reach out to the people who are the designated beneficiaries and let them know, like, hey, in the event that I die, can you make the call? That was something that I did for Andy's widow, was that, you know, she had said, there's, you know, things are going offline because the hard drives are filling up and I just don't know what to do. And people are so nice and they offer, but what I suggested was, I was like, here is, I've already asked these people, and they live right by you. It was really cool. It was actually Andy's former boss. My former boss lives real close. And so I said, the moment that you need them, they're actually going to email you sometime in the summer. And you know, they'll go over, they totally understand all of Andy's setup, and so they'll be able to help you through that. So yeah, I think that that's something that I'm going to do after this, is reach out to all the people and let them know, hey, can you offer? Because it's just so much easier for somebody to accept help instead of asking for help whenever they're like, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, you know.
So Chrissy, I have a question. How often do you have to update this list? Because things like the security questions, and there's a lot of things that keep changing. So every time something changes, you make it a point to update these things, or how often do you do it? Yeah.
So I did this 2 months ago and I haven't yet had a chance to update it. Nothing major has changed, but I did forget something after, and I ended up going and just writing it in because I didn't want to like print it out again and then write my master password. So right now I'm just updating it manually by hand. But I mean, I would have to say, I think that things would change enough probably in a year to revisit, not the security questions or anything like that. But I think that a year is reasonable to even revisit all of your subscriptions, see what, you know, what's changed there, but probably not too often. because I think that it could be like, I don't know, you probably won't find enough, and maybe you'll just be all excited and change it a lot in the beginning and then just kind of abandon it. So I think that probably we go and we get our like annual blood work like every year in May. And so I think I'll just set it up that, oh, this is like the chore month. And so that'll be one of the chores that we do. Is
that's excellent. That's an excellent tip. Yeah. Makes sense. Totally.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is like Gilda said, this is just so amazing. I mean, I've always been leery, scared of this stuff. And when I lost my dad to COVID, and when he passed, he was old. So we kind of knew that, you know, he didn't have long, but we didn't think he would be going at the time that he did.
Right.
So a lot of things that he's left behind us, we're still sorting through it. And he's a pretty organized guy. He wasn't too much into tech. It was all the manual stuff, the old-fashioned stuff. But
there's
even then,
lot.
Yeah, oh, there is so much to sort through. It's unbelievable. I really wish there was a checklist of some kind that I had, because every time I think I've made progress, I find 10 other things that I have to look into.
Right. Yeah. And that's actually a friend recommended this book to me whenever I was starting up the repository. It's In Case You Get Hit by a Bus, How to Organize Your Life Now for When You're Not Around Later. I have not yet bought this book, but I think that it'll probably be like a similar checklist. And if anybody here ends up buying this and finds something that is a value that hasn't been listed in the checklist, then I would totally appreciate, like, if y'all would either submit a pull request or an issue so that we can add on to that as well.
I will add it to my list of books to read.
Excellent. So now I'll show you, in the event that you buy the book, you find something interesting. Let's go ahead and see what it's like. I'm going to show you around the repository. I have logged in as my demo account. So this is just a little account that I set up because it allows me to do things like I'm about to do now. Since I own the repository, I wouldn't be able to show you in the same way. So what you do is you go to, if you just search for, I don't know, Fruppyland Potato Quality or Fruppyland LeMaire, you'll probably find it. Or you can come to my my GitHub, and I also tweet about it a lot. So once you get here, I'll give you a little tour, and then I'll show you how to create an issue and a pull request, all from the web page. So this is the repository. I was very excited. I found I created a GitHub action that actually converts the markdown into a Word document. I thought that was pretty amazing. And then it updates the repository. And I love GitHub Actions, and I'll show y'all around that. So this has, it's the basics. It's MIT license. You could do whatever you want. You could replicate it. I would love if everybody in the world would steal this. Well, it's not stealing, but do whatever in the world you want with it. It's just important information to get out there. So we have the README where you can, just look at the history. I talk a little bit about Andy, and then it also talks about how you edit the checklist.md, that's the markdown, and it actually creates the document file. So let's go ahead and look at first the checklist. And this is what it looks like. I did have this intro, and I wonder if people are like, man, that's super insensitive, because I'm like, contact the following friends and family before announcing it on Twitter. And I kind of feel bad for that burden. So I imagine that, your list is probably going to be smaller. My list is actually way smaller than this, but this is more because I put this out in the world. Some people may not have iMessages, and they may have WhatsApp, and this just gives people an idea of some of the apps that they could go through to let their spouse know. And I did say, like, create a little template, Chrissy has passed, and then just copy paste to everybody. So it doesn't need to be, personalized for each person. And I think that the copying and pasting will at least reduce a little bit of burden. And then here we have, I'll actually go like deeper into it, into the actual document, but you can kind of see it's very pretty. And if you would like to edit it, if you're sitting here, and actually somebody had said something that, let's see. All right. Somebody was in the issues. It was Luke Deakins from Europe. And was it here? No, maybe. Let's see. Oh, he actually talks about how in several European countries, the moment somebody dies, their stuff is blocked, like their bank accounts are blocked. And
I think it's like that in the US too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think you may have to call and let them know that the person has passed, and if you're an authorized beneficiary, then you get access. But you're even if you know the user ID and password, at least my bank told me that even if your close relative knows your user ID and password, if it is not you logging in, they are not responsible for what happens with the money.
Wow.
Yeah, so
I wonder if that's the case. I should look this up for like joint accounts.
Right. I think joint accounts may be okay. Joint accounts.
Yeah, cool.
May be okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know if Luke is talking about you know, a joint account or an individual account, but he did say, he said, discuss with your bank in advance and write down what was agreed on. So that's actually something that we're going to add to the checklist today. So the way that you would do it, for me, I'm logged in as a fresh account, just created you know, a brand new account on GitHub, and all you have to do is hit this edit button. So is this big enough for everybody to see? Do you want me to go a little bit bigger? All right, it looks good.
Better.
Excellent. So if you click that button, it actually automatically forks the repository. You don't even need to know what that means. You just click that edit button and it does stuff in the background that makes it so that you can create a pull request and submit it to my repository. So what I'm going to do is go through here. This is the Markdown, very pretty. I love working with Markdown. And we're going to go down to, so you can see where I really emphasize not selling without formatting or destroying the disks. We're going to go down to the input and output. Where's my banks? Where's my banks? There we go. Y'all like that? Fake bank. All right, so fake bank. I'm going to say funds are available for immediate use. Spoke with Jan Deakins. This is a mix of a bunch of Belgian names. So Jan, well, actually, Deakins is a made up name. And set aside 20,000 euros. I don't know how many euros, so we'll just do that. But let's see, funds available for immediate use. See, I should probably say after death, right? But like, even I have a hard time. After, I mean, you know,
after person is deceased, that sounds
after, yeah, what's that word that's decedent? Okay, after deceasedness. After deceased.
Right.
Okay. After person, joint holder is, how about there? Okay, cool.
Yeah,
that like, you know, that puts some space between me and death. Okay. So, so they've already done this, right? This is nice. And then here's my proposed changes. Add deceasedness. I should add that. Added note about deceasedness. There you go, Leslie. All right, so now I'm going to propose changes, but I'm not done yet after I propose these changes. This is my commit message. And then I could say like partially fixes Luke's retiree issue. Okay, so I'm going to propose the changes. And what's really great, it says, you know, it tested it. Just go here to this big old green button, create pull request. And then I'll say notes, add add additional information about bank accounts, fund availability. Okay, so now I'm going to create the pull request. And now, when you go to, that's potato, yeah. So when we go to the actions, it should start an action. Oh, you know what? I would have to approve that. Darn, y'all could have seen it in action. But it is cool, actually. If you are a first-time contributor to a repository, GitHub puts the brakes on and it has to be approved. So, but I've logged out of that account, so I won't be able to. But ultimately, what it's doing is it's testing the conversion to see if it works. And then it uploads an artifact so that you can download it. So I'll just like show you one of the older ones. This is also a combination GitHub Actions presentation, just because it's so cool and it has an endless number of uses that I think are really amazing. I love Pandoc. I discovered it while working on Fruity Land. It converts everything to everything. In this case, it converts the checklist to the document. So we'll go back here to actions and I'll see, can I click there? Yeah. All right. And look, so it converted it. And then I could look at it, me as Chrissy, and be like, oh, let's see. Let's look. Now this is the old one. It won't have my stuff because I didn't approve me. And I'll be like, oh, that looks good. Okay. It's not all messed up. So it really took that markdown and it made it this pretty thing with this pretty stuff. So I'm like, all right, that's good. And then I can approve it. And that's how to do a pull request. Here it is, all through the web, all pretty straightforward. You don't even need to learn all the terminology. Then also, if this is still like, oh man, that's still an 87-step process and I don't know the words that she wants to use, so I just want to kind of suggest it. If you go here to issues, you can create a new issue and you could say like, mention, oh yeah, what was it? Somebody actually did that, suggested something that I had to look up just now. What was it that we were talking about earlier? Y'all remember, like 20 minutes ago?
Like how to mention disease versus diseasedness, was that it?
No, it was something else that I was like, ooh, I'm gonna have to look that up. I think it had something to do with banks.
Yeah, banks on who has access to the account after you no longer,
follow up on or let's just say do joint account holders. I mean, this isn't, I guess this would be more of a discussion. But I'm not going to get into that because I still don't know the difference between, or like there's no, you know, explicit line between discussions and issues. I'll just say something else, like doesn't matter. Then you would just fill it in here, submit that issue. I ended up going through, I closed a whole bunch of them in preparation for this. I didn't want a whole bunch of issues hanging out and y'all thinking like, oh, she doesn't even add it. So yeah, I went through and there I was collecting information from people on Twitter as well. So some of these I created, and then ultimately, let's go ahead and take a look at the document, because this is, so that was for you as the developer and contributor or potential contributor. And now this is going to be you as the user, right? Just go ahead and we'll go back here. So this is checklistdocx, download. And so you could go and you could be like, man, I don't have that many friends. I'll just, enable editing. I'm going to make this giant for everybody. All right. Okay. So I'll be like, no, I just message, you know, mom, dad, brother. And you could see how, like I set up the same narrative or dialogue that I guess it's a narrative, that I used as I was listing this out. Like you can log in through my phone or laptop, keep my phone and laptop until you haven't used them for at least 1 year in case of, you know, multi-factor authentication, which like throws out all my stuff. and then, or like gives it all away and then finds out that she needs to log in. So I'm like, keep that at least for a year. Here's how you do this. Go through the domains, and that's something else. You know, Google domain is auto renewed, and .io domains are very expensive. They're like $60 a year. That's harsh. So make sure that those get given away. You know, I mean, I think that within a year is acceptable. Again, because we put this in the cloud for like generic information, or not like generic, because we put this in the cloud with information that won't be necessarily compromised, because I don't put account numbers or anything. I'm just like, call up the bank, call up big bank. Yeah, I just have a blank line here for her to put in, for me to type in my master password for KeyPass, you know. And here's the little thing that I told you about. Delete anything that you don't want. I re-emphasize this so you can go through, you know, talk about it with yourself, talk about potato pie, you know, the Wi-Fi. And ultimately, this document has just really, I'm an anxious person, got anxiety and depression. And it's just brought so much relief that I'm just like, and I really love that there's somewhat of a guide out there for others, you know, that's geared to people like us, because I bet in that book, you know, that I actually will probably end up picking it up in case you get hit by a bus, but I'm sure that they're not going to be like, pay attention to the DHCP server to ensure that it is online so that you can get an IP address for your phone. So ultimately, I hope that you have enjoyed this session and that you found this useful. But most importantly, like, please download it now and maybe set an alarm, because I know you're going to be in the conference for the rest of the day, but it's so easy to put this off and not do it. And there are times when I try to like remind people on Twitter, hey, I know I got a lot of retweets for this, but what's most important is that it's not just a retweet, that it's actually downloaded and that you do this. And I guarantee it just feels so much better once you don't have to carry that around in your mind. Made me feel a lot better. So thank you all for joining me. And I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you may have.
Anyone has any questions for Chrissy? Now is the time. You may choose to text it, or you may want to raise your hand so that I can unmute you, if I happen to know you, by the way. I don't unmute strangers for safety reasons.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, you know what? While we're doing this, why don't, you know, while we're waiting, we still have 14 minutes. Let's do it, everybody. Pull up your browser, github.com/potato quality. That's with 2 E's, like T, like little, like petite, /FROOPYLAND-DR for disaster response. Let's do this. All right. Okay. And then click that checklist and then click that download. Okay. Now that you got it downloaded, pick up your phone and set an alarm for 8 hours from now so that you can fill this out. That's a really good idea. All right. So thanks again for joining me. I appreciate it. And thank you so much, Mala and Leslie, for setting up this day of mental health and wellness. I have appreciated the opportunity to speak.